The Fujicast is an independent Loading Zone production.
Kev, I always thought you would be a sort of, in inverted commas, non-believer when it came to Halloween. I've never enjoyed Halloween, but partly that's because of a serious reason, that it also marks the anniversary, the date of my father's passing. So you can imagine that him passing on the 31st of October, us going back to mum and dad's house, and then sitting there waiting for people to knock on the door and say trick or treat was not necessarily something that I loved that particular night. And I would imagine that it's gone downhill ever since then. We're miserable old sausages. We actually, our house has a gate. We close the gate and actually lock it. It never gets locked. There's only one day a year it gets locked. Halloween. And I know we're recording this Halloween and it's going out the Monday after. But you love it. You love it.
Well, I enjoy it. Yeah, I don't dislike it at all. I kind of, we spent a lot of time traipsing around. I think, maybe it's something to do with where our houses are located. Yours is on a busy main road, as lovely as your house is, whereas ours is in a little village. And so, the rule of thumb is that if you've got keep saying pineapple, not a pineapple. What are they called? Those orange things.
A turnip.
It's not a turnip either.
Go on, I want to hear you say
pumpkin.
Yes, go on.
If you've got a pumpkin lit in either your window, or most of us put them on our doorsteps, but I don't know what the weather would be like today. Then
rainy,
bang on the door.
Yeah. Well, you probably have a better class of trick or treaters than what we have in Fatcham.
I don't know about that. It's probably easier in Malmesbury,
is it?
I must say, because you can basically do the whole town in, an hour.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people around here, I have to say, put a good effort into it. There's one guy up near the bypass who spends. I saw him. I was coming back from judo last night, and he was just finishing it all off. And his entire house looks like a theme park.
Oh, we have one like that round the corner.
He spent weeks.
Yeah. He does it every year.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
I mean, it looks akin to what Disney would have done if they did that to their castle on Halloween night. So, if I come trick or treating tonight, Kev, what am I going to get?
You're going to get. I've still got to get them. Actually, I usually buy 3 boxes of Quality Street. And that's it.
I was rather hoping for a 35mm lens.
No, it's 2 boxes for me and 1 box for the kids.
The Fujicast.
So no 35mm for me then, Kev. I don't want a crummy old Quality Street. I like Quality Street, but I'd rather have a lens.
I tell you what I have got.
What?
I've got the Viltrox 27mm f1.2 to test.
Well, yeah, but you can't give it to me as a trick or treat thing, can you?
No, can't give it to you. No.
But I
could hit you over the head with it, perhaps, or something.
That's true. Welcome to the Fujicast. You and your letters, the questions that you've sent into our Facebook group, or of course to the email address, which is click@fujicast.co.uk. I think we're doing okay for emails and questions, Kev.
Yeah, we're doing all right. We always need more. Don't ever worry about thinking it's been asked before, because what comes around goes around.
Well, what are we now? 3 years? Are we 3 years old or 4 years old now, Kev? Where are we?
I don't know.
I mean, some of the questions that were asked very, very, very early on, we could just recycle.
We could pretend they haven't been asked and just read them out again.
Do you remember this letter from X Change Name? So the Fujicast, we have a book to this week, don't we? What's the book of the week, Kev?
I'm not going to tell you until we get to it.
Oh,
but I'm going to tell you now. It's a corker.
It's
an absolute corker.
Oh, I thought it said a porker. I thought, what's that?
No, it's a corker.
A corker.
Corker.
All right. Okay.
I'm going to give you a clue.
Go on.
Last of the 7th.
Last of the 7th.
Does that ring a bell?
That wouldn't be anything to do with a 7 photo agency, would it? No.
We'll get there. It'll all come flowing back.
7 Deadly Sins?
No.
Have you seen that film, 7? Have you seen 7?
I have seen 7, yes.
Oh.
I think. Have I seen 7?
Is the one with the head in the box at the end? Sorry, I've just given it away.
No. No, I don't watch things like that.
Don't look in the box. What's in the box? Don't look in the box. Where he's running through the desert. Morgan Freeman's finest.
Someone told us a couple of weeks ago to watch. There's some drama on BBC or something.
Ghosts?
About no. It's just a drama,
right.
And they said it's about this chap that gets mistakenly identified as a terrorist, and it's meant to be brilliant. I don't know, it's BBC One or Channel 4 or whatever. Anyway, it was meant to be a brilliant, like, multi-episode series. So me and Gemma sat down and thought, right, we'll watch that. And then the music started, all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, in the top left-hand corner where they give you all the trigger warnings these days, it includes, you know, swearing, drug use. And then it said animal cruelty, and we both went, well, that's it. We're not watching. No. That was the end of that. We turned over and watched Only Fools and Horses.
Yeah, well, probably a safer bet. I don't want to watch something about animal cruelty.
Yeah, it's meant to be a good program, though. But there you go.
I can't think of the movie that last night, as we wound our way toward Halloween. Last night, young Thomas went to his. Oh, get this! I'm saying this. His girlfriend's house, Kev. Girlfriend's house. Yeah. His age?
I'm not allowing Rosa to have a boyfriend or girlfriend, whichever she decides on. But I'm not. She's not having it. No, not until she's 27.
If you can't do that.
I wrote it down in the rules when she was born.
Rapunzel story all over. But he went to watch, there were a whole group of them. They went to, what was the movie? Oh, I can't remember it. Anyway, there's two of them. And the second one I can get on, I think it was Netflix. I can't get the original one. On Demand wants me to pay for it. But it was a 15 movie, so they're on that. They're in that age group now. Well, nearly, some of them. And he came home last night. From this party watching this movie. Guess what bed I slept in last night? His, yeah. Guess what bed he slept in?
His girlfriend's.
No! Kevin Mullins! If there was a yellow card sound effect, I would now be holding one up. And if Donald Trump had said, don't be disgusting, and I had that jingle, I'd play that. No, Sam's. Oh, Kev. So, I don't know, he said, I'm not going to sleep in my bed for the next week. So I'm sleeping in a tiny bed where I have to tuck my legs up. Right, we should say thank you to our sponsor before this gets any more daft. Thank you, Pick Time, or pick-time.com if you're looking them up on the interweb, for your support for this show. We really appreciate it. It's the place where we show all our weddings and portrait work. I've showed some commercial work there to our clients. A great way, an attractive way to show your galleries. You can size some of the images in your gallery larger, if you want to call them the hero images, so you can sort of draw eyes into particular parts of the story. You can do all kinds of stuff with a gallery that just makes it look like a website, Kev, isn't it? It's a website design, really.
It is, yeah. Have you ever heard of Honeybook?
No.
Honeybook is a like content customer relationship management system for photographers. Very good.
Okay.
Very big. I think it's predominantly North American based, right. USA, Canada, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, the reason why I mentioned it is because I got a notification yesterday from PickTime to say they now got integration with Honeybook, which means that if you are a Honeybook user, which I'm sure there are many listening, your galleries, your CRM system, it's all now, all the magical jiggery pokery is all connected in the back ends. All of the little computer fairies will be pedaling even faster if you have Honeybook connected to PickTime. And I believe that it's free for a year, at least, that kind of connection or whatever. Anyway, or no, sorry, you get Honeybook free for a year if you have with your PickTime Pro account.
Right.
So that might be worth, it's only, as far as I can tell, it's only for USA and Canadian people.
I can't go to it yet then. I've never used a CRM system.
I think you can use Honeybook, but I don't think you can have the connection between the two just yet, unless you're American or Canadian.
Well, of which I'm neither.
Which you're not.
No.
Yes.
But CRM wise, I've always used Excel spreadsheets and stuff. Spreadsheets coming out my ears, Kev. It's not the way to do it, is it? No. What do you do for CRM?
I wrote my own Access database years and years ago.
Yeah.
Still got it.
Yeah.
Still got it. Still going strong.
Access, is that still a thing?
It's still a thing, yeah, believe it or not. Actually, you know what? Funny enough, I was reading about that. Those of you wondering what the hell we're on about, Microsoft Access is a database system that you can build forms and apps and things. And it was so popular at one point. The reason why they're not discontinuing it is because there is so many legacy systems that are like proper high end, bank. I mean, I remember writing a system for Bank of England reporting, regulatory reporting.
Right, that must have made you a fortune, Kev.
No. I was working. I was working for Deutsche Bank,
Right.
and it was this system we wrote was responsible for doing the regulatory reporting at the end of every single day on all the trades made.
Wow.
I would not be surprised if that's still in place now at that bank. There's certainly lots and lots of access databases that I wrote and many other developers wrote over the years that will still be running.
Well, we had one for. Could it be feasible that it was written in 1997? Would that? Yeah. So that was written for a company I was working in at the time called the Radio School, and this guy came along in a very posh car. And he charged us, I think, about $5.5K for writing this access. $5.5K seems to be a figure that's embedded in my mind, probably because my fellow boss at the time screamed very loudly, I think, when he opened the quote. But we had it done. They're very specialist developers and designers, Kev, doing that stuff.
That was great. I loved Access. I remember writing when I went independent and set up my own little dev company, I wrote the software for PepsiCo UK for all of their kind of pet analytics, which is basically a pet is like a pack. Right, so you've got like 12 packs of Pepsi or 12 packs of Lils or whatever, or 6 packs, etc., all that kind of stuff. And it was the most complicated thing I've ever had to get my head around. The formulas and everything in it were nuts. And all it was essentially to add up how many pets they'd sold in particular areas and marketplaces and all that. Anyway, that was pretty lucrative.
I'll tell you what,
got some free Pepsi out of it.
How come you just live in a house in Malmesbury and don't own the whole of Malmesbury?
Because I got married and then all of the money went away with that.
Oh, Kev. Right. So pick-time.com. Go to them. And if you would like a free month's membership, you can put in the code, which is Fujicast. Or we say every single time, capital letters Fujicast. And you too could be using that wonderful system like what we does. Right, questions, Kev. Do you want to go with, what are you going to go with? Are you going to go with a Facebook one or an email one first?
Go email, because I've got quite a big one to dissect here from the Facebook.
All right. This is from Stuart. Hello again. Now that people are becoming more suspicious, some with good reason, do you think street photography is still appropriate? In the past, nobody had to worry what their image would be posted or used for on social media or copied by AI. If it's still acceptable, how do you go about doing it without people feeling uncomfortable? It's a very good question, Kev, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Particularly with, I suppose, AI. We often talk about privacy, but AI now adds a new layer of questions to this debate, doesn't it?
I mean, I don't think the AI stuff is a street photography question in its own right. I think that's an ethics question in terms of what you do with it afterwards.
But if AI can put faces that you've made into other pictures, I suppose that's where it becomes. There's so many tentacles to AI and what it can do.
It's not something that worries me, I have to say, in terms of just street photography stuff. And my answer to all of this has always been that people need to understand that, like, if you just stand on a street, in any street probably, if you're in London, for example, you're going to have like probably 30 cameras pointed at you at any point in time. Like from CCTV, from ANPR, from all kinds of things like legal cameras. You're going to be in the background of people's selfies. You're going to be in the foreground of people's phone photos. All over the place, you're going to have pictures taken. And what we have to do as a street photography community is never forget that actually what we're doing is not wrong. And also, it's important that we carry on doing it, because otherwise the history of places will not be documented.
Well, the history of places will only be documented through the eyes of a camera that's 20 feet up in the air.
Precisely. Yeah. And so I always feel like the people that ask this question are just a little bit uncomfortable and unconfident with themselves going out in the streets, because they think, what if somebody comes up to me? What if somebody says this? What if somebody says that? And the fact is, they probably won't. And if they do, you just explain what you're doing.
But Stuart's right.
Taking pictures of the area.
Yeah, people are becoming more and more suspicious, though, aren't they?
I'm not sure they are. I have to say, I'm not sure they are. We've just get on with their own day.
We've often talked about some of the countries in Europe, and Austria comes up a lot. I know where street photography is now banned. You can't do it. That's why there's so much movement image, intentional camera movement pictures that are now street documentary.
But that's been brought in by the government. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the people.
Yeah, but
so
the people are very,
don't
they're very aware of it, Kev. I mean, I've told that story about when young Thomas was on a train platform just making a picture of a train departing. You know, like lots of kids do, certainly in the UK, and many adults as well, for, you know, train spotting, which is it's a bona fide pastime. But when Thomas lifted the camera to make a picture of this train leaving, I mean, honestly, the driver dived below the controls. I mean, it was almost comical. And that's why I know my rights. You can't photograph me.
Well, he is within his rights in that case, you know, but when you're talking about street photography in a public place, he can, of course, do what he wants. He can jump behind whatever he wants. You know, the fact of the matter is, taking photographs on a train station platform is you're not in a public place, so you know there is protections there for whatever reason.
Yeah, but I think I mean, that's the example I'm giving. But generally in the city itself, there are many people, and the cities themselves, there are many people that are more aware of their rights. And I think almost, I'm going to use the B word, and it's going to be a great generalisation, but people have become, I think, not just in Austria, in other places as well, a little bit brainwashed to think that because a picture's being made of you, that something terrible is going to happen with it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think some people might have that attitude, but I think the vast majority of people will be thinking, what the hell is he taking a picture of me? Or he must have been taking a picture of somebody over my shoulder who's far more good looking and not just sat here drinking a Costa coffee, you know. Yeah. It's not, honestly, I think it's a worry. It's definitely a worry that, you know, certainly in the United Kingdom and America, at least, we are, you know, we're blessed with the luxury of still being able to photograph in public places, you know, and so people don't have the right to effectively say, don't take a picture of me. But of course, if somebody did, you wouldn't. And, you know, when I do my workshops, I always say to people, look, you know, you have to have your own ethical boundaries. My ethical boundaries are that I wouldn't take a photograph of anybody doing something that I wouldn't be comfortable with another stranger taking a photo of me doing.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's where it is. I think a lot of people, you know, and there's a lot of this stuff on YouTube. You see a lot of people who are antagonistic and sulking in the corners. And
they're the ones that say, I know my rights, when somebody stops them, you know, and they're purposefully good. Like I know. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like that. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that, you know, I've seen a lot of very, very good street photographers over the kind of past 5 to 7 years move away from really, really lovely storytelling images to only taking pictures from a distance where there's shadows, highlight shadows, you know, kind of much more artistic in some ways. But because they're fearful of actually, you know, taking pictures of people in a public place, putting it on Instagram, etc., and you shouldn't be fearful of it.
Last week when we were on holiday in the Isle of Wight, we go with one family now. It used to be several families. I'm not quite sure what we did to the other family, Kev. But the family we went with, the mum has this great fear of any picture now turning up on Facebook. And I did ask her one day, I said, what is it that you're actually worried about with regards to social media? And she couldn't put a finger on it, really. It was just a fear. And I wonder whether that a fear, as Stuart suggests, is growing or not. You don't think so?
I think that's possible. Yeah, I've got to say, one of the reasons why I'm kind of backing away from weddings a little bit is because the whole dynamic of people has changed, in my opinion, you know, and they only want the Instagram friendly faces. And I'm not on about the clients, I'm on about guests. And, you know, some maybe, I'm not saying this about your friend in the Isle of Wight, of course, but, you know, sometimes it's just vanity, you know,
I know
it's just vanity where, you know, don't take my picture until I've lost a couple of pounds. Don't take my picture till I put my makeup on. Don't take a picture of me with my hair like this. And I've got people in my own family who just like, oh, don't take a picture of me. And I've stopped taking pictures of them now. And I say to them, when you're dead, there'll be no pictures of you for us to remember you by.
Okay.
How do you think about that? You know,
do you ever write that in a greetings card to them?
Well, it's true though.
When you're dead, nobody's going to remember you.
It's true. You know, Rosa's friends, lots of her friends, you know, they're all lovely kids, but you know, there's this thing, you know, they take pictures of themselves on Instagram with their faces covered up. You know, they're covering their faces up because they don't want to be, you know, and that's a vanity thing, probably brought on by the pressures of influencers and social media itself. So there's a deeper conversation to have about that. Jeepers, everybody's unique, everybody's individual, everybody's beautiful. Doesn't matter what shape, size, color, bald, hairy, whatever, short, tall, etc. And I just think it's a sad place if people just never ever want their photos taken because of their insecurity about themselves. Now, I'm not saying that I think that's sad, and I'm not saying that that's that person's fault. Of course, there may be deeper anxiety issues, all kinds of things could be happening. But I think that's a minority of people, and I reckon if you just wander around the streets taking pictures, as long as you're not stood there leaning against a lamppost with a 200mm lens, looking like a 1970s detective, then, I think you'd be all right.
I've been on a course of yours where somebody was dressed a bit like that, Kev.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, he had a secret hidden release.
Way. Yeah, well, it was ingenious, but that clandestine method, you see, where was I? I was walking, it doesn't matter really. I was walking with a friend, and it might have been Neil Ford actually. We were making some street photographs. I apologise, by the way, if it was you, and I was thinking it was Neil. But we were walking along the street, and this guy coming the other way, I could see it from, I don't know, maybe 20 paces away, that he was preparing to make lots of pictures of us as we were walking along. I don't have an issue with that, but the way in which he was doing this clandestine method just made me laugh. And as he passed and did it, and I said, "Put the camera to your face, mate," smiling as I said it. And he laughed as well. And I think the honesty of street photography, I'd like to see that come back. The shooting from the hip thing, it doesn't have to be shot from the hip. Make a picture and do it with honesty, he says. Smacking the desk.
There is a place for shooting from the hip or shooting without the camera to your eye. There definitely is. However, if you look at some of the footage on YouTube of the iconic street photography, especially from the 70s and 80s, Joel Meyerowitz, that kind of thing, you'll see that they're just people in a place. They raise the camera to their eye most of the time, not all the time. Most of the time they do.
What I've seen.
And if somebody says to them, "Oh, you take my pictures?" Like, yeah, I'm just documenting this area. I'm just taking pictures around here. And it's a personality thing as much as anything. Yeah. And I've got the brightest personality in the world, so I'm all right.
There we go. Stuart did have a PS. Can I do a quick PS? The last episode had a question about phones replacing dedicated cameras. I wholeheartedly agree with Kevin that this will never happen with people who care about photography. I've read about some who've switched to using a phone exclusively as a proof of concept. However, as you mentioned, they install grips, cages, lights, etc. to the point where you can't really carry it around in your pocket. Also, once you add these things, you don't really want to be taking them on and off all the time, so most buy a second phone to use as, ironically, a phone. You really can't say it's less expensive or a better product, even though it's possible. Maybe I'm just old, but I don't see phones replacing cameras anytime soon, if ever. From Stuart. There we go. Good PS. And that sort of puts a sort of end to that discussion until the next time, of course. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, Kev. Facebook. Right.
In time-honoured tradition, I will go with the latest one, which came in 4 hours ago from the Bearded Man Photography. Paul Stevenson, and there's actually 5. There's 5 QQs here, so we'll do each one in order, I guess. Number 1 is aimed directly at me. It says, "Kev, facing retirement. I'm not retiring. I'm just slowing down with the wedding, stopping the weddings mostly. I still have to make a living. Facing retirement. Is there one wedding that will stick with you, other than the poor old lady one, for life? Maybe particularly emotional or very unique." Well, yeah, there's a few I could probably point out here.
This is like picking out your favourite child, Kev.
There was one time where I was asked to go and take saucy pictures of the bride.
Oh, I remember. I remember that. What happened to that one?
I didn't do it.
You didn't do it.
I think if I had to kind of pick one, it would be when I turned up to this wedding, usual me, my pre-wedding questionnaire is, what time do I need to be there? Yeah. That's about it. And so I turned up to this place thinking, this is quite a nice place. Yeah. Looking, as I always do, looking like Columbo, shirt not really ironed properly, didn't have a tie on, jacket was, been worn the same jacket for the last 17 weddings, whatever, scuffed shoes, only to find that it was, kind of between minor and major royalty were there, and for a reason, because it was part of their family. So I think that sticks out with me. It was a lovely wedding, but I kind of think, yeah, that's the day I should have had a shave.
Who was it, Kev?
It was.
Are you allowed to say?
Yeah. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think I do talk about it on my workshops and stuff, but I've not shared the picture. I have shared pictures from that wedding. There's a blog post, in fact, but I haven't shared pictures of the. Not that they asked me not to, in fairness, but I didn't share pictures of these particular people.
Would it have made?
I did. I saw. So to put it in context, there was one of the minor, between minor and major.
Isn't it horrible to be described as a minor royal?
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. I mean, like not. No,
but they do though, Kev. That's what I mean. You know, you're a minor royal.
So I went. There was this girl who, you know, with the Instax, and people, you often see people shaking Instax, whatever those things are.
Polaroid. They shake it like a Polaroid.
And like a little, just to keep me occupied, I normally rush up to them, tap them on the shoulder and say, oh, don't shake it. You'll just spread the ink. It's not the right thing to do. Just put it on the table and let it dry, because that's true. Actually, you shouldn't shake these things. No. And she's like, oh, I'm dreadfully sorry. And it was only later when I sent a picture of the back of the camera to Gemma. I was like, I really recognize this person. She was like, yeah, you should recognize her. And I tapped her on the shoulder and told her off. Shaking the Instax.
Yeah. So she had a similar sort of question. She'd say, have you ever been to an event where somebody really offended you? And she'll be saying, yeah, there was this bloke that ran over, pulled me on the shoulder.
This scruffy, fat, middle-aged bloke wandered up to me.
Rugby tackled me to the floor and said, don't you ever shake that again. And then went off and raided the canapé tray. Go on then.
Right, number 2 is aimed at both of us. You don't have to mention names, but do you have a favourite venue?
I do, actually.
You can mention names. I don't see why you can't have to mention names.
I mean, I have venues I work at very often that I have a soft spot for. But if I thought of a favourite venue that I really look back and think, oh, that was really different. I really enjoyed that. It's a place called Spitbank Fort, which is one of the Napoleonic forts. There's 3 that lie in the Solent. Saw it last week and went past it in the car ferry, actually. And it was built during Napoleonic times on sort of sandbanks out in the Solent. In fact, to navigate past and into Portsmouth docks, certainly the huge, how many, I don't think we have many, but the huge ships that we have, the Navy ships, the aircraft carriers that we have, or carrier, now has sort of laser guidance to get it through the sandbanks and into Portsmouth Harbour. That was an amazing place, because it's a bit spooky inside, Kev. You can go right down where the waterline is, and it's double lined, two lots of bricks, and you go around that. It's completely pitch black, and you can walk all the way around the fort in the pitch black in that tunnel. That was a bit spooky.
Don't you think it's weird that we can have ships that can laser guide themselves through tiny little gaps these days?
I know.
Yeah, they can't even fix potholes in the road. Amazing.
That's a very good point. So that's mine. What about yours?
Yeah, I'm not sure I've got a favourite. I'm not like you. I don't work at. In fact, one of the next questions is about repeating venues, but I don't typically work at the same place that often.
Yeah. Well, this wasn't like that often for me. It's only once. It was a once.
Yeah, so I'm going to pick a unique venue that I shot at. I think it was last year. It was in northern Norway, and it was a glass box on the side of a mountain.
Sort of a pod, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like a viewing platform, I suppose, but a very nice one, hewn into the rock.
Yeah.
And we all had to hike up to this place. Yeah. It was like a good half-hour hike from the base. Yeah, that was probably the most unique place. They only had the ceremony there. They then went back down the hill into a kind of chalet type environment. I think that's probably the most unique.
It looked amazing.
I did have a book in during. It was going to happen, but COVID came along, and it was in Germany. Right. I was really looking forward to it because you go out on a boat, and it was in the. I know Germany doesn't have much of a coastline, but does have some at the top, and it was in a glass ball on stilts in the sea.
What's that place called?
I can't remember, but I was really upset that I never managed to get there because COVID came. And
bowl in sea off coast of Germany.
Give me enough time, I can probably find it.
I think I know that's just giving me nice German glass bowl designs on Etsy. Not seeing.
Well, I tell you what, I'll look it up while we go on to the next bit. Number 3, both. Yeah. What's the most you've ever visited one venue in one season? And did you find it challenging? I'll leave that one up to you for a moment.
The venue I've worked at the most is a place called Wasing Park, WASING, Wasing Park. It's probably I suppose it's my local venue. If you had a local venue in terms of a home venue, it would be mine. It is, I think, 15 minutes and 45 seconds or something like that. If the traffic is right and I'm driving at the right speed and the lights are all green, from door to door. So it feels like my home venue. And when it opened in 2008, I think I did their second wedding. I think that year, or maybe the year after actually, I think I did. And they were in the days, Kev, when I was doing between 70 and 80 weddings a year. I must have clocked up 30 at that venue.
In 1 year?
In 1 year. Maybe 25, 30. Then it died off a little bit because I was working at lots of different venues. Now, I don't work there quite so often these days, but I'll still do 5 to 10 in a year. But I have worked there. Now, I remember saying to a couple many years ago, I've worked there 150 times in my career. So it must be more. It must be 170 by now.
Okay, so part of Paul's question there was, do you find it challenging going there so often? A bit boring, a bit repetitive?
No, because they've changed the venue a little bit as the years have gone on. I know the place very well, so it's not so much of a challenge, and I do like a challenge. I think sometimes you make better pictures when you are challenged. I don't really go with this. You know, when people contact you and they say, I must have somebody who's worked at this venue, who knows this venue, I don't think that makes a lot of difference. And I refer you back, Your Honour, to working on Spitbank Fort a moment ago. And actually, the year after COVID, when I worked in a beautiful forest wedding that I did. And I think you look at those and I think I shot some of my best work there because I went to it like a kid in a candy shop that, never been there before. That doesn't mean that I don't get, I think, half decent pictures when I go to venues I've worked at many times. It's just it's a different experience, isn't it, really? But it's not a challenge in that respect. I think the challenge are people, not the venue, because the venue will never be the same weather.
No. Yes, I totally agree. And I always say the same thing to people when they say, have you shot this venue before? And I actually flip it and say, no, but that's a good thing. Because I go with brand new eyes.
Yeah.
I don't really, like I said, I don't really revisit venues much. I mean, I did, in fact, it was Wasing also. I remember one Christmas, well, not Christmas, it was December. And I was there 3 times in the space of 5 weeks at Wasing. Yeah. Probably weddings you couldn't do that you passed on to me. So yeah, I don't really have that situation. Although thinking back to this, I've shot, there's a place in Bath, just outside Bath called Preston Mill, which is lovely. Yeah. And I'd shot there once in 14 years and I really liked it. It's a nice place. You know, it's a barn conversion done well. But this year I've got a wedding there this Sunday and it will be my 3rd time there this year.
See, that's because you blogged it to death, you did.
No, because the first time I was there must have been 10 years ago. Oh. Maybe even more.
Oh, so how's that happen? That's just coincidence then, is it?
Yeah, I think so.
I thought maybe you'd got that one and you'd done your digital marketing and your mastery.
The original one's not even on the website.
Well, that's interesting then, isn't it? How weird.
Right, number 4. Yeah. Best and worst supplier meal. He says, I once got given a cheese sandwich and some crisps on a 12-hour day. Oof, that's brutal.
Ooh, that is. I do remember somebody. So it wasn't the venue, but I do remember it was, I'm going to say it, Kev. I don't care. I'm going to say it. It was, I think he is now a Conservative minister, but I won't say his name. And when on my contracts used to go out and say that the supplier should have a hot meal if his work is 10 hours or whatever it was. And I remember a phone call from him and he said, just going through the contract, it says here you want a hot meal? Is that right? Do you really need a hot meal? It was a real penny picker, and I remember that conversation. So really, like it was said in a really sneery way. But anyway, that wasn't quite what you were asking. The worst I ever had was at a very, 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 very plush, well-known place where people descend upon if they visit London. As one of those places you have to eat in. The supply meal was rubbish, Kev. It was the worst supply meal ever. Honestly, I could have cooked it. That's how bad it was. But I don't know if I can. I'll say it.
Oh, okay. Yes, I've done a couple of those, and I don't think I even got a supplier meal. In fairness,
it was awful.
Yeah, I thought you might be on about Claridge's. So I was going to say Claridge's. I've done a couple of Claridge's as well, and actually Claridge's is the place where I've had the best supplier meal
Yeah.
that I can remember.
So
at
you're
least.
lucky. I've never worked at Claridge's. I'd love to.
It's beautiful. It's Gordon Ramsay's stomping ground.
You're
Isn't
never going to get a bad meal there, surely.
I actually did a wedding once, again, a long, long time ago, very small wedding. It was like 12 people. And they had private dining at Claridge's. And it was Gordon Ramsay. This was like a super high-end wedding package where Gordon Ramsay cooked the food.
Oh!
So I'm fairly sure I didn't get his food for my supplier meal, but it was still very nice. I didn't see him.
Send this out to Mullins.
I know. Who's that scruffy, fat, middle-aged bloke over there sat in the corner?
The guy who keeps leaping on people for using their Instax cameras incorrectly.
Yeah, he's playing Football Manager on his phone.
Yeah.
Well, I know exactly what my worst ever one was, though. It wasn't a particularly high-end venue. I can't even remember where it was, I have to say. Somewhere in the UK, anyway. Lovely wedding, lovely people, and they were like, "Oh, we've organised food for you," all of that kind of, how it goes, which was great. And then the kind of catering person who's always flustered, said, "Oh, do you know if they've ordered? Do you know if they've ordered a food for you?" I said, "Well, I think so. Yeah, they just said they'd organised food for me." "Oh, right, okay. Well, I better go and see then." Off he trotted. And he came back and he plonked down a microwaved frozen pizza, one of those small little frozen pizzas, which in itself is not too bad.
Yeah, but they'll be soggy if it's
that's enough for me. Well, it was beyond soggy. It was wet. It was soaking wet.
Horrible.
Somebody had obviously poured a cup of water or run it under the tap or something. And it was just, it was, if I lifted it up and water just poured off the side.
Oh, disgusting.
It was grim. Absolutely grim. And of course, and I didn't eat it. And then the clients later went, "Oh, did you get your food?"
Nice
and I was
meal.
like, yeah, I did. Yeah, it was lovely. Thank you very much for organising that.
But here's the question.
Ripped off.
Yeah, here's the question, Kev. Would you ever complain? Knowing that the venue might then sort of put some sort of black mark on you for the future?
No, never. I would never complain. And also I would never say to the client, if they've said, "Oh, did you get your food? Was it okay?" And if I hadn't got it, which has happened several times,
you say yes.
I always just say, "Oh, yeah, it was fine. Don't worry."
All done.
Because I don't want them stressing about that kind of stuff on their wedding day.
Right. You're quite right. Same with me. I would never tell. Right, yeah, I think there's a fifth. Are we up to 5?
There's a fifth, yep. Number 5. Have you ever said no to a booking based on the couple and or the venue?
I don't think with the venue, no. I think with a couple, yes. And it was because it was in the days when I could stay very firm on my pricing. I think I'm firmer now, funnily enough. I've with your advice, Kev, I think I've turned a bit of a corner. But for a while, and I'll blame COVID and so on and so forth, I was definitely soft when it came to negotiation, or softer. But in the days when I was much firmer with negotiation, I remember a guy trying to, and it wasn't the Conservative minister to be, trying to cut me down just silly amounts of money on different bits of it. And I got the feeling at the end, for him, it was just a bit of some sort of corporate negotiation. I said, look, after having accepted, I said, I don't want to do this anymore. And I said to her, I don't think we're going to get on the day. He was really surprised. I think he was used to getting his way with everything. And I have a feeling that his wife-to-be gave him a proper grilling over it, because he came back very much with his tail between his legs, but I still didn't accept it. I said, I'm sorry, no, I can't do it.
Yeah. I think I've definitely said no to inquiries that I've been free for based on the content of the email that I've received. Yeah. We really love your style, but it's really important to us that we have portraits and, will you be able to do groom and bride and, I want pictures of my dress, all that kind of stuff.
That, yeah.
So they go away. And I've only ever once returned a deposit where, and he knew it as well. The conversation was going on and he's like, look, Kev, I know that, it's not your style, but my mom, an Italian family tradition is to have, so he said, all of these, lots of group shots and everything. And it's really unavoidable. And it was enormous. It was like 65 different combinations. And I just said to him, I said, look, and this was a couple of months before the wedding. I just said, look, honestly, I really think the best thing I can do for you is to give you your deposit back and give you a list of people who I think will be able to do a much better job at your wedding than you.
I remember doing that wedding. It was 72 group shots.
It was you, yeah.
No, it wasn't.
So yeah, I've done that. And I think what you always have to remember, I think, and of course we're on the wedding photography angle here, but it's true for any genre, I guess, is that you are the expert. They've come to you for your services. So don't feel like you have to give them whatever they want if it's outside of the boundaries of your usual service offering. And for me, that's, pretty straightforward. The group shots, the formal stuff, all of that kind of thing. Yeah. I don't do them. I don't enjoy them, and I don't do them particularly well. There are better photographers who can do lots and lots and lots of group shots. Of course, I can do, like the 2 or 3 or whatever, but I'm offering my service based on a very particular niche. You're offering yours based on your niche. Everybody are niches for the Americans. Yeah. And so don't be afraid to say, actually, I don't do that. That's not what I do. All too often photographers, especially in the wedding world, bend and yield to do things. And, can you do bridal prep and groom prep at the same time? Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then you're panicking, you're running around in your car, and you're worrying about being late for the ceremony, all that kind of stuff. Just say, well, no, not really. I can facilitate a second shooter for us, obviously additional cost that will allow you to have that, but I can't do both. And all too often, I think wedding photographers certainly will just say, yeah, I'll do that. And then they panic and they rush and things go wrong and what have you.
Good advice.
This has been the Bearded Man Photography Q&A show, and we'll see you next week.
We're going to do the book of the week, and then I think that's about it, Kev. But did you find that amazing venue that you were trying to find, the one in Germany that you nearly did you find glass bowls on Etsy too?
No, I didn't. Yeah, I couldn't find it. I'm afraid I couldn't find it. Right, shall we do the book?
Book of the week, Kev. What is it? Come on, what's this mystery?
I am going to start with the letter that was sent. And then we'll talk. And I'll probably not read out the whole letter because it's quite large. However, dear Kevin, dear Neil, you may or may not remember me from the several questions I've asked on the show and teasing the meaning of my business name, Last of the Seventh. Ring a bell now?
It does ring a bell, but I'm still trying to remember. You know what I'm like with names.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you couldn't even remember the name, the word pumpkin earlier.
Oh, I can't even. Sometimes I can't even remember to get up in the morning. Well, most things, the truth is never as alluring as the mystery. Quite simply, I am born on the last day of the 7th month. Sorry to disappoint. There we go. Oh, okay. That's solved the riddle of the last of the 7th, which we did talk about a few times. Yeah. Since then, I took the advice of one of the episodes of the podcast and separated my wedding business completely from my documentary photography work, and it has been the best decision. It has made life so much easier for myself and, most importantly, my clients. Right. I highly recommend it for any photographers out there thinking of doing it.
So he's still doing lots of different things, but he's completely separated the two.
Correct. Yeah. I have just released my new book under my actual name and shot entirely with Fujifilm gear. And it is an absolute pleasure to share it with you as a thank you for all the inspiration, both for the podcast and your respective bodies of work have given me over the years. Now, when he says share with you, he means shares with me.
Yeah, I know. The book always goes to Kev. I never get it.
You're more than welcome, Neil, at any point.
I don't want it. He didn't send one. I don't want it.
My new book, Uplooker, in capital letters.
No, I do want it.
Documents life on the streets of my hometown, Adelaide, throughout the COVID pandemic.
Right.
It's been shot over 4 years, from early 2019 through to very late 2022, and has been an absolute labour of love. Doing all of the design layout myself, even the self-publishing. The opening page of the book speaks as to how and why this project came to be and gives some insight into what can often be a controversial topic in the photography world, photographing people who call the streets home, i.e. homeless people. Yeah. For me, as the book explains, it came down to intent. If you're photographing someone with an exploitive or demeaning intent, then of course you're going to feel that energy in the photos. And that is something that is not of interest to me in the slightest. But to sit and interact for lengthy periods of time and then photograph people from a point of view of compassion, which is really important, with a desire to capture who they are irrespective of their so-called social status, then hopefully that is the energy and emotion that is conveyed in the photographs. there you go. So he goes on to say, if you find the book interesting enough to review on the podcast, which I do because it's fantastic, I think you would absolutely make my year, and I would be forever grateful. It's a cause and social issue very close to my heart. I'm donating $5 from every book sold to a fantastic organization in my hometown who do incredible work, and I'm hoping the tiny light my book can shine on the issue can raise compassion and awareness in people's lives. So I'll tell you how you can get hold of the book in a moment. But first, the book. So Uplooker.
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
Well, you're looking at the...
It's a hardback book, not a paperback.
Well,
Usually when people do self-publishing, they're softbacks, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, not always. Not exclusively.
No, but usually.
Okay.
This is a solid, good-looking, brilliant picture. And I love... So the cover, initially... So I when I first read the note, I thought, oh, that's really interesting. And I thought, oh, another COVID lockdown kind of... empty streets kind of thing, but it's far from that. And interestingly, the cover picture, which is a color picture of a homeless person, but cleverly Paul has blacked out the eyes. Okay, which gives us some insight into the emotional situation within the page of this book. And it's just really, really beautiful. Like the image, first of all, the photography is fantastic. There's a lot of black and white work in here. There's a fair amount of color as well, but a lot of black and white. Yeah. But it's very, very obvious when I look at all of these pictures that Paul understands it really, really well. Because a good black and white picture really needs contrast between light and shadow, and so I don't know any point whether Paul is encouraging his subjects to kind of look in certain directions or whatever. I'm guessing probably in some cases, which is a good thing because it makes the portrait more appealing. There's a lot of kind of environmental type stuff with people looking uncomfortable, holding their hands holding their head in their hands, that kind of thing. Masks up, masks down. But the photography in its own right is really wonderful, really, really, really beautiful. Lots of different people, and sometimes you'll look at a page and you think, oh, that's the same picture on two different pages, but it's just a slight twist. It's just a slight different movement of the eye. In some cases, the cigarette they might be smoking, the cigarette button has gone down a little bit longer. There's good connection between the continuity between the pages, in that you have some pictures and then you might have some graffiti or some money that's been some writing on the wall, on the floor in pencil, in chalk, please help me, I'm homeless, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Really, really, really superb book. I really, really enjoyed looking at it. It's just really powerful. There's a picture of a chap on one side of the page here, and then on the other side it's just a close-up of his forearms, which show self-harming marks, and just makes you so sad. It's a beautiful thing from a sad subject. Close-ups of people's feet and the unhealthiness of them. You might think when I say that, close-ups of people's feet, I don't want to see pictures of close-ups of people's feet. But overall, as a project, it's important to include that kind of stuff because it connects things together and it gives the whole story. So often, if you think of what's his name? A black and white photographer who does very gritty black and white images of homeless people.
Oh, Lee Jeffries.
Yes, Lee Jeffries. Yeah. Amazing pictures, but often it's just the face. I wouldn't call his pictures environmental portraits, whereas the ones in Stephen's book are definitely environmental portraits. You get a real kind of understanding. Well, not an understanding, but you get an insight into the soul of these poor people, and it's just a really well put together book. Yeah. I mean, the photography is amazing, but the actual layout of the book is beautiful. The odd quote intersected, and the overall feeling of it is one of sadness but hope. I think is probably
sounds like there's a sort of melancholic charm. Yeah, if you can use those two words together in this context to the book. It's
really, really nice. And one of those ones where, I've got a lot of photo books now, but one of the ones where I will definitely kind of look at that regularly. Yeah. So pre-orders will ship mid-November.
Yep.
And You can go to paulcharlesbartlett.com, PaulCharlesBartlett.com, on Instagram at Paul Charles Bartlett. I don't need to spell it out again. And as it says here, Uplooker is a raw and emotional collection of 140 black and white and colour photographs from Adelaide-based photographer Paul Charles Bartlett, including some personal thoughts and quotes from various interactions. This is a photographic documentation focusing on the humanity and struggle of life on the streets of Adelaide during the COVID pandemic. Yeah, and it's really beautiful. It is beautifully presented, 152 pages. And yeah.
That was often the untold story, wasn't it? Of those that were on the streets. Whilst we were all hiding inside, some people couldn't.
All those poor people. While we had our illustrious leader giving us food to eat out to help out.
Eat out to help out, wasn't it?
Yeah, wonderful. What about all the people who can't even afford to eat in, let alone eat out? Yeah. But yeah, I know it's a really good book. So thanks, Paul, for sending it. And we must remember that his birthday is on the 31st of July.
Why must we remember that?
So here's the thing, right? So I did my judo coaching exams on the weekend.
Yeah.
Part of the thing that I learned was you should always ask open-ended questions at the end to reiterate what you've just educated people with.
Right.
So, Neil, why do we know that Paul's birthday is on the 31st of July?
I don't know, Kev. Why do we know? Throwing back a question mark at you. Paul's
the last
birthday.
of the 7th. He's called the last of the 7th because his birthday's on the last day of the 7th month.
7th month, yes. Sorry.
Oh, my word.
Oh, God. Oh, dear.
Don't ever come to one of my judo classes.
No. Sensei, anyway, I'm ready for my pasting, I shall say, as I march on with me bare feet and my dressing gown.
Pajamas.
Pajamas. That's it for this week. As the theme tune running underneath will suggest. Thank you for your questions. Keep sending them in. Kev, how do we send them in? Via the lovely Facebook page.
Search for FujiCast Facebook group. We've had a few new members. We've had a couple of new patrons recently as well. We keep forgetting about patrons. Yeah. Patrons are great because it gives us money. You can be a patron supporter of us if you want as well.
It gives us support, Kev.
Gives us support. FujiCast Facebook group. Just search FujiCast. Join the group. It's very friendly. And there is a thread at the top, pinned. It says questions for the show. And we're kind of slowly getting through most of them.
And of course, you can still email them as well. Click at fujicast.co.uk. Click at fujicast.co.uk. That's it for this week. See you in a couple of weeks, Kev. Bye.
Bye.
The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.